I know what you're thinking. Why is Michaela always in a sweatshirt with no makeup on? Well, that's because I'm always in a sweatshirt with no makeup on. Hi writers, welcome back to my channel. My name is Michaela, but you can call me Mick, and this is episode 3 of Let's Write a Book. Today I am building my cast of characters and taking you through my process of how I'm creating characters and why I'm doing it a bit differently this time. I'm currently working on Project House of Stone, which is about a main character who stumbles into finding out that magic is real and things get crazy. If you want to know a little bit more about my idea, you can go ahead and watch episode 1 of Let's Write a Book, where I take my premise and turn it into a full-blown plot. We're going to jump right into today's episode and go straight to my screen. We are back in Milano to talk about building a cast. So I actually already built my cast and I filled out all of the character details that I needed for all the characters that you see on screen. But I am going to take you through this new process that I have and how it's actually different from the old process. So I think how everyone sits on screen right now is how my characters are going to look and feel. I say think just because I have written different versions of this book already. It has changed genres and it has definitely changed casts. But this is the cast that I am going with for my 0 draft. Now, in the past, when I was looking at creating characters, I really thought that character creation was creating a profile. And what I mean by that is filling out like a character template. Right, where you're filling out their name and their age, but then it goes into things like their favorite color and their first crush. I used to spend so much time filling out like 100 questions for each character, and it's just not it for me. This does not work. Favorite color and first crush, I don't know. I don't understand it. I have such a hard time of figuring out everyone's favorite color for some reason and answering all these other questions that I just didn't feel like mattered to the story. But when people talk about character profiles, it seems like, or it felt like to me, that that's what everyone meant by having a well-rounded character, right? Having a well-rounded character meant you needed to know their favorite color and their first crush, because they needed to feel like a person. But I've now realized what at least works for me to make our characters feel well-rounded without having to worry about things that are not pertinent to the plot. I actually got a question on my outlining video by Live Change Challenge. Shout out. Thanks for subbing and thanks for commenting. This was such a great question. She asked on my outlining video, do you think that sometimes the structure created to help can actually hinder your progress? I find that it can sometimes stifle the creativity because I'm trying to fit my story into a box that my brain doesn't understand, which I totally get. Now, this was on an outlining video, but I want to talk about how this part might relate to even creating characters and using, character profiles or set structure as well for creating your characters. When I'm coming up with my characters in the beginning of a book, I'm coming up with what I feel to believe the basics for a character's plot. And it's the same thing that I did with my outline. I actually did a full outline for this story and a chapter by chapter outline for this story. But there's still so much that I don't know about my story that I'm going to be uncovering while writing. That's the same with these characters. I'm only using this structure to understand the basics that's needed to move the story forward. That is the key here. I just want to know how I can move the story forward with these characters. Basically, what do I need to know to get to the end of my first draft? That is the main thing. I'm really going to be discovering these characters as I'm writing. So this structure for me is going to help me figure out how to get to the end, but I'm still going to be like discovery writing, I guess, to really find out who my characters are as I write them on the page. And that's the same with outlining. So now you're probably asking, well, Michaela, how do we create this well-rounded character? Dun, da, da, da. So this is what I'm doing now for my new character profile to make sure that all of my characters are going to be well-rounded. There's 5 different categories for this. First, we still need to have the basics like name, age, and some appearance. But we also need to know what our character's want is, what our character needs, what our character's false belief is, and where our character is going to be at the beginning, middle, and end of the book. That's it. 5 things, 5 little groupings. The best way to define a character's want is what does your character believe will make them happy? What in their heart of hearts do they really think is going to change everything for them and make them truly happy? Their want is going to affect things like what goals they take throughout the book and also what motivates them. So their want is going to affect their goals and, so we'll switch that around, affect their goals and their motivation. But then we also need to figure out what our character needs. And this is what our character actually needs to be happy. Usually this is subconscious for our character. So this is something that our character figures out along the way. This is something that, it's that lesson that our character has to learn. They need to figure out for themselves that this is what they need. Our characters are like those friends who make interesting decisions, and at the end of the day, sometimes you're like, I can't give you all the advice. I'm gonna let you figure that out on your own. That's what we've done as writers to our characters. We know what our character needs. This is something that we understand and obviously we're coming up with in the very beginning of our story. We know what they need, but our character does not know what they need yet. And then next we have a false belief. And this is what happened in the past to lead our character to believe they don't need their need. I don't know if that makes sense, but this is where you can come up with some backstory. What happened in the past that now makes our character believe that they don't need this actually at all, or maybe they don't deserve this. And this false belief creates a barrier for them consciously understanding what their need actually is. And then of course we have a beginning, a middle, and an end for every character. That means that every character that we create needs some sort of story arc with a beginning, middle, and an end. And their ending is actually dependent on this want and this need. So how our character's story is going to end is going to answer the following questions. Does our character get what they want or what they need? They could also get both or neither of those things. The next part of building a cast that I find very fun and I feel like is very important is making sure that we understand the relationships with every cast member. So everything that I just talked about, that like want, need, false belief, and this beginning, middle, and end arc, I did that for every single character. All these people on the screen, get a beginning, middle, and end, a want, need, and false belief. Now, since I know that about everyone, I also need to understand how they relate with each other. Since I'm a visual planner, I will literally take their image, put them in the center of my cast, okay, around a little circle like this. Look at this coven circle we have. They're like, praying for the death and destruction of people. It's actually what a lot of these people are doing. Take all of my characters, put them in a circle. I literally do this to figure out how do they connect to this person. So in this coven circle, I really just did like a feeling phrase. So with my main character, Helen, I have with our main male character that they go from enemies to lovers to enemies again. She goes from best friends to enemies with Zoya, and then all these other things with these other characters, right? How she feels about them throughout the book. With one character, she feels indebted to them. Another, she feels threatened. Another makes her feel hopeful. This one changes. First she's scared, then respectful, and then doesn't understand her. Scared of her, feels sorry for her. They don't trust each other. These are feelings that my main character has for every single one of these cast members, and it's something I felt like was important to figure out at the beginning of the book. Feelings, though, aren't always the full relationship, right? And for me, really understanding how all of these characters work together in tandem to create the story is something that I figure out as I write. I have done a couple exercises that have helped me figure out how these characters stand on their own 2 feet and have their own voices. So let me actually break these characters up visually into the groups that they're in. So I have kind of 2 groups of characters in this book. It's one group is who I'm calling House of Stone, which is like my cult resistance group. Sure. Which is pretty much what they are. They're like a cult or a resistance group, depending on who you talk to. And then I have my Novak family, which is the powerful and maybe evil family that this group is trying to take down. So that means I have 2 different groups of people, and how they interact is based on how they interact within those groups. A very easy way to do this, of figuring out how they act with each other within their grouping, is giving them almost like the blink one phrase. Kind of like how Friends has all those episodes where it's like the one where we ate french fries. I don't know. You know what I mean? This is like labeling someone. So it could be the shy one, the smart one, the hacker. You know how like in heists, everyone has a job? It's kind of like that. So you can give people this very generic phrase to live by of how they act in their own group. Another thing that I like to do, which is I think a lot of writers do this, is to like write mini scenes with your characters interacting with each other. I find this more helpful than coming up and like filling out a 100 questionnaire, like what is their favorite color. Instead, I'd rather see how everyone interacts with each other when they're put in a different scenario. I think the most popular scenario that people do is like throw all of your characters in a coffee shop. Because if you start to throw everyone in a coffee shop, there's going to be different things that people do, right? What does everyone order? Who is the person that gets the table for the group? Who has the most complicated order? Who might get impatient? Who won't tip or tips too much? Like what's happening when all these people go into a coffee shop? I find that actually through writing, I can better understand my characters. I need to make them come to life on a page, and I like to do it by making them live and work in these crazy scenarios. It's basically like if we're back on Tumblr and we're just creating little alternate universes for all of our characters. Another one that I really like to do, and maybe it's just me, maybe it's because I did the Disney college program and that could be a whole other video in itself, but I love throwing my characters in Disney World. One, I think it's hilarious, especially because I'm writing like a contemporary fantasy novel. So actually Disney World does exist in their world, but then they have magic. So it's even more exciting for me. But I find throwing them in Disney World to be absolutely stunning to figure out who they are and what's going on. Who planned ahead? Who is the biggest fangirl in the group? Who hates lines? Who is complaining? Who forgot to eat all day? There's so many things that you could do to like make these characters come to life. And I just find these exercises so much more impactful than filling out the questionnaire. So really, in conclusion, how I build a cast is I always come up with their name, their age, and their appearance. But then I also figure out, what does my character believe will make them happy, which is their want. What does my character actually need to be happy, which is their need? What is my character's false belief for why they can't achieve their need? I make some sort of relationship web, so I figure out how every character feels about every other character at its most basic point. The relationship arcs and depth is going to come with writing for me. And then I create these alternate universe scenarios to figure out the voices of my characters and truly understand who they are and how they interact with each other. So that's it. That's how I build a cast. I found this process to be the most helpful. I feel the most prepared I've ever been to actually write a story with these characters after figuring out their wants and needs and also throwing them in a coffee shop and Disney World. If you guys want to maybe even read that scene where my characters are in Disney World, it's honestly pretty funny in my opinion. So I don't know, let me know. Maybe I'll share it. Hopefully this was helpful and hopefully you learned something or it was just fun for you to watch someone else's process of building their cast. I'd actually love to hear in the comments if you build characters in a similar way. Do you have to fully know your character before you write the book? Do you also figure out the character through writing? I'd love to talk with you about it in the comments. I really do love when you guys comment about your process or your own story that you're working on. I just love that we're building this like tiny little community in the comments. So please comment below if you feel like this resonated with you in any way. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of me building my cast for House of Stone. I'm so excited that this episode's actually done because that means we actually get to start writing Project House of Stone. I'm so excited. I can't believe I'm actually, I don't know, I feel ready and prepared to write this book more so than I ever have in like any other writing project. So I'm excited. And I hope you all are excited as well. Thanks again for supporting me on this writing journey, and I hope you guys have a great day. And no matter what, keep writing. Bye, writers.